Good afternoon, I'm Bill Anderson. You're listening to Expat Radio, and we are coming live from Mijas on the Costa del Sol in Spain. It's a very pleasant day today. It's about, I don't know, 21, 22 degrees out, but a bit of a chilly wind. But it was for us a cold night last night. I think the temperatures dropped to about 10 degrees where we are, and that's chilly for us. Our bodies kind of adapt to the warm days and the warm nights. I'm very pleased to welcome onto the show today colleague and friend of mine, Peter Wall. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, Bill.
How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, all good. It was cold last night. I had to put a jacket on this morning, which was haven't done that for at least 6 months.
Yeah, I know. It kind of comes by surprise, Peter, doesn't it? It
It
was
does,
like,
it does.
we were sort of saying going to bed last night. It was like, it feels a bit cooler out, and then actually it was a bit chilly during the night. And my little dog got me up at like 20 past 6 this morning, and it was perishing outside with that cold wind. Peter, well, first of all, Peter, thanks for joining me today because I got this message from you this morning saying that with these dropping temperatures, your allergy has sort of flared up, yeah?
Yeah, my hay fever. I had to stop for about 10 minutes to have a sneezing fit, but hopefully the little antihistamine pill is doing the trick.
Right. Maybe you should put your mask on so as you don't affect our listeners all over the world, you know?
Possibly. Good idea. Good idea.
Peter, we're going to talk about what you do, but let's talk a little bit about yourself first. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Birmingham.
From
I don't know if you can tell the
Birmingham, is
accent
it?
or not, but yeah, originally from Birmingham. I moved over here oof, over 17 years ago now, coming up to 18 years. So
Yeah. And you found yourself a lovely Spanish wife. I take it that happened when you arrived here, yeah?
no, a bit later, a bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah. uh, Thanks to her, because she doesn't speak any English, my Spanish has improved an awful lot.
Does that mean you actually talk to each other, do you?
Well, now and again, and I have the advantage that I can literally say, "I'm sorry, I don't understand."
Yeah, but actually, for people wanting to learn Spanish, and we've talked about this on various shows, and how important it is if you want to be in business over here, being able to speak Spanish is really very important. But you were in a situation where she didn't speak English, and there's this kind of need to communicate and need to be able to speak Spanish. So you
Yeah.
do it. And one of the problems that people have when they come here is they don't have the need.
Very true. Very true.
And if they don't have the need and don't have the motivation, it's like it doesn't happen. And some people have been here for 20, 25 years or more and
Mm.
still struggle to have a proper conversation in Spanish. So you had to overcome that, yeah?
I definitely. I think you also miss out if you don't speak that much Spanish. You also miss out on one of the main reasons for being here is to understand a different culture.
Sure.
Missing out on all the fiestas and what's going on. You almost live half a life if you don't understand some of the Spanish.
Yeah, people can survive quite well within the expat community, and some do survive very well within the expat community. But you know, um, I wouldn't like to live in Little Britain with sunshine. Really, it takes
Very true.
it takes away half of the experience of living in another country, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It does.
Yeah.
Well, I came here because my wife at the time became ill, and we decided a completely new change of life. So I had a web company over in the UK in Cheltenham, all
Right.
set up, going well. But because she became ill quite suddenly, then we thought, well, why are we working working like crazy? Let's go and have a change of lifestyle and life altogether. And we always wanted to go and live and work and try and experience a different culture. And Spain was well, it's easy. It's because there's a lot of expats here.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to fit in without knowing any Spanish,
Sure.
and then gradually and take it all on board.
It's amazing, Peter, because I didn't know this part of your life
Ah,
story. And actually, my story is exactly the same. But both my late wife and I had businesses in the UK. We were both working 60, 70 hours a week. We hardly saw each other. She got sick. And but we decided that the only way to sort of break away from all that was to move. We had an apartment here in Spain, and we decided to move over for a complete change in lifestyle, just as you said. And I didn't know that we had that little sort of
Ah,
connection. And then after Marion died, it was sometime afterwards. I also married a Spanish woman, so.
ah, very similar, very, very similar. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. You meet people, Peter, in all different settings, and we tend to concentrate on what you're doing now,
mm,
and don't necessarily have these conversations about what brought you over here and what the circumstances. I just find that really a really big coincidence that our experiences and reasons for moving here were so similar.
mm.
Okay, so you were into web design in the UK. You had a company doing web design in the UK, Peter, yeah?
Yeah, I originally started or trained as a graphic designer, worked for various different graphic design companies in the Midlands, and then moved a bit further down to Cheltenham, and that's where I set up with another colleague a web design company because it was just starting to happen. So we started to work for companies producing what we call brochure websites, which are completely different to the websites you see now. So it's
Yeah,
literally like a brochure online, and that's it.
sure.
There would be no interaction as such at all. And yeah, moving from that, learned an awful lot about coding, web design, what makes people respond to what they see online. So yeah, and then because of what happened personally, I then carried on self-employed over here,
Right.
working for the various companies in the UK, and I've never stopped.
Yeah. So you're a busy man.
Busy, 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 busy.
Is that good?
But probably half and half, 50% still graphic design and 50% web.
Right. I guess a lot of people come into web design from a very different route. Do you think it
Mm.
helps you, Peter, having a background in graphic design and the sort of visual impact of what you're doing?
I think it does because uh, um, often the programming is set up there for you, but if you don't have a design skill as a base, you can't uh, um, communicate that website to either sell or to get more responses or whatever. You still need that design base or that
Right.
marketing stroke design background to make it work harder.
Yeah, so you're talking about well, I guess you're talking about the website looking attractive first of all,
Mm.
and having something on it that when people hit on this website, it's going to sort of draw them in. Yeah,
It's about first impressions. So
yeah,
um, there's two sides to web design. It's either the design part or the programming part.
hmm,
You need both to make it work, to make what you want to see on screen work and work correctly. And then, but you need the design side to make people respond to what they're seeing on the screen.
right.
That whether that's a form to fill in or a sale or a product or whatever it is, you
Hmm.
need people to interact with what they're seeing.
Where would you start? Imagine I've got a business here in Spain, and I come to you and say, Peter, I want a website. What would your starting point be to start to pull this together, Peter?
Would need to us we would initially assess as to what you want out of the website. If
Right,
it's more sales, more inquiries, or just to have a backup from a business point of view for where people go and view information to
right,
check you out before they even contact you.
right,
Almost like well, I've heard about this company. I'm going to investigate them to see what they're all about, to look at if they're valid, if to give me the confidence to call them or to make a purchase.
right.
So we start there. What do they want the website to do? How do they want it to work? And then from there on, we would initially work up a few designs visually, not so much how it would work, but visually if it's on style with their brand, if they have any current branding. Um, Branding is really really important as well. So um, your website, your brochure, your image all looks the same. It gives people more confidence
Right.
about who they're buying or what they're buying from a service or product point of view.
Yeah. And I would guess if you want to sell things, there needs to be a kind of simplicity to the website because,
Mm,
if people are looking for a product, they don't want to have to shuffle through, 100 pages to find what they're looking for and then find how to pay it. And I guess there needs to be some kind of, intuitive element to it and a kind of simplicity for people to find what they want to buy. Yeah.
it's keeping the overall design simple and the usability even more simple. So as you say, if somebody's looking to buy a hose pipe, they need to get there quite quickly instead of having to click on 10, 15 links or pages to try and find what they're looking for. So if you're a company selling all types of products and somebody's come onto your page from Google searching for hose pipes, they need to get there quickly.
Right. I mean, I've designed a couple of websites. I'm not a professional. I've only done it for myself. But I know for me, the starting point is, what is the structure of this website going to be? Um, and just starting to build it without thinking about what the structure is going to be is the kind of noise that comes before a defeat, isn't it?
Very, very. Often after the design stage, which can just give a look and feel, we would then work into what we call a site map. So it gives the client the opportunity to really hone in on the detail as to what they want their website to do. But it's
Right.
just a basic wireframe structure. That at that point there'll be no, we won't take the design into the wireframe at that point. So it's just literally a text document or a Word document, which would show a very, very simple navigation. And it's
Mhm.
good to sort of often at that point stand back from the design and think, oh, well, actually, this is not working for me because I would have to click through 5 different pages to make the customer buy or to see the what we call the CTA, the call to action.
Right.
So at that point, we would go back and forth, make sure that the site map or the wireframes are correct before we go into development stage.
Right. Okay. Um, we've had a chat about this before, Peter, and I don't want to have a dig at Spain in particular, but websites, official websites in Spain, I have to say, I find absolutely impenetrable.
They overcomplicate it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, I understand why official sites end up being very big, but actually trying to, and I speak Spanish, so it's not a language thing, and my wife is Spanish, and she has the same problem with it. But there seems to be nothing intuitive about them. You know,
Mm.
if you know where to look, you can find it. But if you don't know where to look, trying to find it is just like it's next to impossible. You might hit on it by accident, but
I think they what they lack is the design side of things. They work very well from a security point of view, and there's lots of information on there, but they because often governments and especially big companies, well, that they have IT departments which are not designers, they are developers, and they can develop a website very, very well. It
right,
has the information on there, but they're not trained or with the user in mind to find things. As long as the information's there, their job's done. But from a
yeah,
user point of view, yeah, it's overlooked.
yeah. Okay, what would you say, if people are getting websites developed, what would you say are the sort of biggest mistakes that they make in pulling this website together?
There's all sorts of things really. Things like small text, impossible to read text on the website, overpowering images, and also things like autoplay videos. Um, when people come to the website, they've arrived knowing often what they want, and they just want to find it and see the information. Often, where people over market it or over design it, and it can get too distracting. Um, and there's a trend lately, well, for the last few years, just to have a massive image at the top with a little bit of text. At that point, you can make a break a sale. Somebody could go somewhere else. All depends on what you say at that point. But often, people are just, well, I can't find what I want here. I'm going to go elsewhere. So it just
Right.
has to be clean and simple. But little things like that, too many distracting elements, or having media or videos auto playing as well, that can be off-putting, and
Right.
having too far small text. Because often people look at the or first instance use their mobiles to look at websites.
Mm.
It's way over 60% now of people using websites instead of desktops. So it's important to get the the size of the text, and the first thing that they see in that little window space,
Right.
the first thing to get the attention of the people, of the user. Sorry.
Right, yeah, but because this is something that probably when you started on this whole journey in web design,
Mm.
uh, you never need to think about what's it going to look like on a tablet or what's
No,
it going to look like
for
on
the
a
mobile,
mobile, yeah?
no. It
And
was all very brochure website. We designed the brochure from a print point of view. It was great, and now we did the same brochure on the website. Well, that's fine. That's easy. So it looked the same because, like you say, at that point, mobile phones were just not, until Apple started it, that they were non-existent.
yeah, so does it make it very much more complicated, Peter, in terms of the design, from the design standpoint, to get something which will translate well onto other types of devices?
It used to be, but nowadays no. As long as you code it well and start off knowing that it's going to be seen on all different devices, we create what's called a responsive website. So it's one website which adapts to the different platforms and
Right.
to the different screen sizes as well.
Okay.
That started to happen probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And there are still a lot of websites out there which aren't set up that way. So you have to scroll around on your mobile phone on such a small site because it hasn't been redesigned or set up to be responsive.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't want to push particular developers or whatever, but the program that I've been using, you get the option once you've got your kind of design there, you get the option to see this is what it will look like on a mobile, or this is what it will look like
Uh,
on a tablet, which is certainly for someone like me. I don't get into the coding side of it. I have to be honest. You know, it does give you an idea, doesn't it, about you know, what things might need to be changed, as you say, maybe text size, for example.
hmm. There's a lot of online programs or companies now, such as Wix, One on One, that make it very easy for end users to literally design websites, but they are limiting in what you can do in terms of uh, layout and code. That I do look after a few websites who use Wix, for example, and it's great. It's very easy to use. But sometimes when I want something out of the box, you can't. So then you
Right.
have to go down the programming or bespoke route.
Yeah, yeah. I had to do a new website, Peter, because my website's not for a business. It really is just for information. So I guess that makes life a lot easier in many ways. But I had a website with a company which offered free hosting and everything, you know, and then they decided that they're going to start to charge me for it. And to be honest, it wasn't a sleek looking website at all. And I thought, no, if I'm going to have to pay something, I'm not going to pay for this one because, as you say, you know, you were very limited in what you could do with it, and you had to use the style that was available to you and whatever. And I I'm not saying mine is perfect. It's probably still a work in progress, but I did it through WordPress and Elementor and pulled in different things like that. And it does allow me to look at the the different views on different devices and things. Plus, tying it in with some of the Google analytics, I was getting messages saying, please look at your text size on the mobile, it's too small, or things like that. So it's kind of for dummies in my case, but it does allow you to pull something together. And actually, for me, it was a nice project, to be honest.
That they are really a good starting point. If you just want something very, very basic, they're great. But if you want something that like auction sites or start selling from your website or
Yeah,
offer training courses, etc., you have to really think, well, we have to go down the bespoke route and create something that actually works better for the company and not just it's out of the box as such.
yeah, yeah. As I say, my work website as a local councillor here is really just giving people information about different things that they might need to access. Here are links for this and this and this, and some information about the municipality and stuff like that. It's fairly straightforward. I'm not selling anything. Um, how secure generally are websites in terms of? I'm thinking about shopping online, and I'm not thinking about Amazon or I don't know, AliExpress or whatever. But how secure are websites generally in terms of using your cards with it, for example?
They're a lot better than they used to be. But one of the main things to look at is whether the little padlock is on your browser when you go shopping, and that just makes sure that any data you send back and forth when you make a purchase is secure. So at that point, any credit cards can't be hacked or any information can't be stolen at that point when you're transferring from your browser to the website server.
Right.
Um, some sites still don't have that in place. So I'd be very very wary of purchasing anything off a website that hasn't got that little padlock on or that notification that there's a secure what they call SSL certificate on the actual website. Um, but it's just a case of making sure that the payment methods or the merchant that they use to make the actual transaction is of a well-known merchant,
Mm,
such as PayPal, for example. PayPal almost guarantees money back if something goes wrong.
right.
So
Okay. Right.
having that option to pay via your PayPal account even before rather than a credit card is probably a better option to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well protected we are these days with our credit cards. There was a time where you had real protection by paying with a credit card, but I'm not sure if that protection still exists
Well,
now.
uh, often, if it's a dodgy website as such that's there to try and take your details, then using something like PayPal is going to help you a lot to try,
Yeah,
against that anyway.
yeah. I have to say, if it's a website I don't know, I get nervous when it says put in the three-digit security number at the back, and that's the point. I think nah, no, I won't bother.
You won't do. Again, though, it's about that website's reputation.
Sure.
You know, there's even with emails and the spam emails and the phishing email. I can't pronounce that. It's looking at the detail of that email, whether there's any spelling errors or whether it looks out of sync with what you normally get from that bank or whatever the email's about. So
Oh yeah.
it's looking at the website to see, is this a genuine website or not? Have I got enough information on it to give me the confidence to buy? Is
Right.
there contact details? Is there a telephone number on it? Is there an email? Is there information about deliveries? If those type of things are missing, I'll be very wary about making a purchase on that website.
Right. Peter, we're going to take a short break. So that was going to give you time for a 10-minute sneeze. No, no, a 3-minute sneeze session.
Okay.
Okay. You're doing very well, mate. Thank you. Dave, it's over to you.
You're listening to Expat Radio, your worldwide friend.
Welcome back. You are indeed listening to Expat Radio. I'm Bill Anderson, and I'm coming live from the Costa del Sol with my guest today, Peter Wall, who is a web and graphic designer. We've been talking a bit about websites and things, Peter. I want to ask you if everything that's been happening in the world over this last well, it's more than 18 months now. It seems like a long time. Has that impacted on your work in a positive way? I'm talking about all the COVID and the lockdowns and the restrictions and all that sort of thing. What's happened with your business?
Initially, it was a negative for literally a month and a half because one of my clients, one of my biggest clients, was in the UK who offered training courses
Right,
to companies, and they would go in literally and offer what courses. And of course, it hit them because they couldn't go in physically meet up and set courses up. So it was a big hit for me. But then literally it turned around and people wanted to go more and more online, do more business online, and it was the only way to go. So I've never been so busier.
right,
It was
right,
just the first month and a half was literally down by about 70%
right,
because
sure.
people were worried. What do we do? It was all new to everybody, and all my clients they couldn't go to the office to work, so it was a massive change for everybody. But it's been rather positive, really,
Mm.
overall. Yeah, I would say a positive outcome.
So do you think that that there are businesses that have decided, if this was going to last for a long time, which for me it already has lasted for a long time, that they really need to get online and have to get themselves out there online? Has that been your feeling, your experience?
Definitely, and almost changed their approach to business,
Right.
and their offering. So some businesses have completely changed. Some have come back on board now because they can go into offices and physically meet up. Um, but it's changed a lot of businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just we were talking, I don't know, 2 3 weeks ago, and there was something happened, and I kind of wondered what your take was on it, and that was when everything associated with Facebook went sort of under for
Uh,
like 24 hours.
yeah, that was scary for a lot of businesses. And also for personal point of view, we can't send messages. What do we do? We have to physically call, speak to somebody. Yeah, it was a big problem. And I think because of that, they've taken the approach to change the name and almost distance themselves from their brands, such as Facebook and Instagram, to almost create that meta holding company,
Yeah,
which was an interesting move, and it was. I'm sure it was tied in from that particular thing. So Mark can he himself can distance himself from anything like that.
right.
But yeah, it caused a few problems, definitely.
Yeah, it also made me think how much we have, well, I have in terms of my work, relied on what is basically this huge monopoly.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, there are people whom I'm in regular contact with. I don't even have an email address for them, because I maybe have a phone number because we use WhatsApp a lot. And it did make me think, right, okay, maybe I need to sort of rethink things a little bit because, if anything were to really go badly wrong with this, there's a lot of people I just wouldn't be able to contact anymore.
Hmm. And picking up the phone, people just don't hardly do anymore.
I know, I know.
It's all whether it's email or WhatsApp or everything's done so digitally now that literally meeting up is a thing of the past. Um, I thought when I first came to Spain that I would need to go because the majority of my clients are UK based. I thought I would need to go back at least 6 times a year to have face-to-face meetings. No, I think I've been back once in 17 years,
Really?
it's great. But it shows how reliant we are on the digital world.
Yeah. But I mean, these are very positive things in some ways, Peter, aren't they? In terms of, if we're talking about CO2 emissions and everybody jumping on a plane as if it was a taxi going
Mm,
back and forward, when actually very often it's unnecessary.
mm.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
I've just had a note from Dave saying we have a lot of listeners in the USA.
Ah,
Welcome to all of our American cousins. And those of you expats living in the USA, you're coming up soon towards Thanksgiving. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope all is well with you. Peter, I want to ask you about a couple of things. Now, I get to ask the kind of daft laddie questions, I call them. And this is about websites, first of all. And you've mentioned one of them already, certificates.
mm.
Can you explain to us what certificates are, why they're important, and why very often official sites don't have them?
A certificate is a way of securely transferring data from one point to another. So that one point would be your browser, your machine, your computer or mobile phone, and whatever data is transferred via the internet to the server. So whether that's viewing or seeing information or sending information securely. If it's not secured, it has the potential to be hacked during that process, during that transfer,
Right,
whether that's receiving or sending. So it's especially essential for when you're making purchases.
right. So if you're on a website and there is a warning comes up, because this happens quite often. It's very often websites that I know, so I'm not going into obscure ones that it says certificates missing or something like that,
Mm.
and then you have to go into go to website anyway, for example. Is that a dodgy thing to do, Peter?
If you've been there before and you know the website's reputation anyway, then it's not as dangerous. But if you're going to make a purchase, I would be wary about it. Yes,
Yeah,
because it's
right,
not so much the website itself. It's at that point you transfer any data. So
right,
whether it's your ISP or somebody else is listening via whatever device, or at the other end, you don't know what's at the other end.
yeah, right. So if it's a website, and especially if you're not making purchases on it, there shouldn't be a problem.
It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a
But
problem.
if it's a website you don't know and there are certificates missing, and the browser usually comes up with that, doesn't it,
Mm.
saying certificates missing, and then you've got options advanced or something else, and one of the options is go to website anyway or something like that. But if you want to
I
purchase,
would be wary because you don't know what's on there. It could be set up to send over once you view a web page to send over a virus. So I'll be wary. Yeah,
right, okay. Now the other thing is cookies. The
cookies.
the cookie monster. Tell us about cookies, Peter.
Well, cookies are little files placed on your machine when you view a website, or placed on your mobile phone when use an app or view a website on your app. And what cookies do is they store little bits of information to help your experience, to make it easier when you view more pages on that website, or when you go back to view that website or app. For instance, it could be a little a cookie that stores your username and password, or stores any information that you've entered in on that password or app, such as age, gender, name. So
Right,
what happens is when you go back to that website, it often says, "Oh, hi Peter, we know you like hose pipes, for argument's sake, and we know you like hose pipes. So the first thing you see when you come back is going to be hose pipes."
right,
So cookies can be useful and make your user experience very personal. What's happened recently, especially with Apple, is their new operating system on both mobile and desktop have made it clear from a privacy point of view that the user gets to control that. So any new app now or any update to any app on a mobile phone or any website will say, do you want this website or app to track you whilst you're using it?
Right.
And it's all to do with privacy law. So it's given control to the consumer and not to the marketeers or not to the companies.
Right.
Beforehand, often you would go to, you said Amazon, you'll take Amazon, and you'd be, I'm just interested in hose pipes, I'm going to have a look. But then you don't buy anything, or you just leave Amazon, and then you go to another website. I don't know, for example, the BBC or whatever, and all of a sudden you would see an advert for Amazon selling selling hose pipes.
Yes.
How do they do that? Well, it's because of the cookies.
Right. Okay. So how do the cookies get, for example, from Amazon to Facebook?
Well, they would sell them. They would sell your data and information,
Really?
and allow access to those cookies
Right.
for a price. So Google and Apple are not the marketeers' best friends at the moment, because it's going to be stopping them being able to market really directly
Yeah.
to consumers about things that they've done on age, gender, etc. Although Google's going to take a slightly different approach. It's not going to cut cookies out altogether, but it's not going to use personal information such as age, gender, etc. It's just going to use more general information.
Right.
You've been to a site about cars. You like cars, so we're going to show you ads about cars. But
Right.
it's not going to be too specific. That's how things are going to be changing soon.
And you can't. I've noticed. I don't know if this is a very recent thing or I've just noticed it maybe in the last year or so. Um, Very often when it says, this site uses cookies and accept or decline, you still have an option about what information can be passed on. And if it's a website, for example, a news website, not even buying anything, if I really want to look at it, I need to accept the cookies, because if I reject the cookies, it very often just closes the website.
Yeah, yeah.
So I usually select like essential only on that, and there are various other things to do with location, and I don't know, I can't remember what else, but it is a bit. I mean, it must be cluttering up our devices now, all these cookies and things. No.
They're really, really small files, but yes, you build them up over time. You can clear them completely, and every time then you would go back to the same website that you're used to seeing. It would ask you again, so it's constantly asking you to, because ultimately, whether things like news websites or whatever, they want they get revenue from their adverts, so they want their marketeers to an advert, their customers on the adverts to sell, to work. So they sell their ad space, so they want the cookies to work.
Right.
So often it's sometimes if you're not too fussed about it, then fine. To have a little cookie on your machine that tracks you, it's not too bad.
Yeah. So what you were saying there, Peter, is that there are moves to stop this this kind of selling of data to
Yeah.
other. Yeah. Is this going to happen on an international scale, or is it going to be in the USA, or is it going to be on a European basis? How's that going to work?
I think it's on a Europe and USA base at the moment, but it'll probably roll out over the next coming years from an international point of view.
And
Uh,
is that going to be good for the end users, or who's this going to be good for if this stops?
I think it's going to be good for the end user more so than the market. Marketers will always find a way around it to sell their products.
Yeah.
But I think it's good for the user to control how much data is tracked.
Right.
if you register on a website, where does that data go?
Hmm.
It's not just the website; it's then often sold on to other companies who for use on other websites. So I think it's a good thing.
Okay. Um, how do you see things developing in this whole world, Peter? Where do you think it's all going?
Oh, good question. That's a big question. um, I think it's going more and more user control. I think uh, I think websites will be they'll have less and less directed or targeted advertising on. So I think we'll go back to how it was before, where it was very general. From that point of view.
Right.
From another point of view, I think we're going more on mobile advertising and on mobile apps
Right.
more so than websites. I think websites over time will become less and less important, and apps will become more and more important.
And is that something that you are interested in developing as well, Peter, or do you do that already?
I had a look, but because I'm so busy with everything else, I haven't gone that far into developing apps. I've looked at it a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
So I've steered clear of it at the moment.
So that's a kind of pending project, maybe
Yes,
maybe.
as and when I have time
Yeah,
to go that far into apps.
yeah. Um, but what else was I going to ask you? There was something that occurred to me, Peter. When you started off in the whole graphic design business, did you start analog or did you start off digital?
Analog.
Analog.
Although at university there was a few Apple Macs, but we only had like a half day lesson on how to use them. The rest was all analog. And my first job was actually literally with a scalpel, with markers and pens. Even before I had a computer, so it was all analog, the
Right.
old-fashioned
Okay.
way.
But I mean, it's a great way to learn the trade, isn't it?
Mm. I think that it gives you skill. It gives you the fundamental skills about learning about color, about different typography, about and also how to communicate whatever the brief is, whether it's selling a car or whether it's selling an offer. So how to on paper, how do you see it?
Right. So
More
d
so than letting the because often the computers they're a great tool, but I think we've possibly gone too far in letting them do a lot of the work. You
right.
still need the creativity part. You still need that idea.
But how did you make that transition from your scalpel and rulers and things like that into the digital world? Was that a difficult one for you?
Not too bad. When I started in my first job, it was half and half. So it was almost some jobs were done on the computer, some jobs were created by hand. So it started to get less and less by hand. The technology increased. It was a lot. Sometimes it started to be a lot quicker to do it on the computer, and then it just took over,
Right. Right.
and we never went back. It was the same with the web. When the web started, um, the company I was at the time went for a quiet spell, and I had literally 3 months of twiddling my thumbs. So I self-taught code. I self-taught myself the basics of HTML and JavaScript to get an understanding of it, even before I did any website whatsoever. And
Right.
that was really useful. That
Yeah.
just to sit down and learn the very basics before actually thinking about look and feel in design
Hmm.
to understand the structure of how a website's put together.
Right.
It was really useful.
It must have taken a while though, Peter, for the digital side of things to catch up with
Mm.
what you could do in an analog way, by hand.
Very much. I remember dialing up on a modem, which was about 28K speed, and now we're talking gigabytes. So
Yeah.
to do anything online or digital was just it just takes ages to send an email.
Yeah, yeah, I guess we've all become used to that in time. I mean, I rarely send letters anymore,
Mm.
because it's too much hassle,
It,
getting the letter, even if you handwrite it, or printing it out and putting it in an envelope and then going down to the post office and waiting in a queue to get it. Yeah, it certainly has. So the idea of your graphic design work going back the way, you can't really
scary.
imagine it, can
Yeah,
you?
too scary. Very, very scary. Sitting at the massive, massive board and literally with a scalpel cutting out letters where there's an error, or yeah, it would it'd take a week to do an advert.
Yeah,
I say it takes a couple of hours. So
yeah. Well, I'm going to ask. I know it's probably a silly question, but on average, how long would it take you to design a website from start to finish? And I'm talking about talking with the clients and deciding what their needs are, and then how long would it take you to put a website together ready to launch onto the web?
a very, very basic one can take a week, I would say, but not necessarily a week in time, but a week in going back and forth, having meetings, and actually developing it. But if it's more complex, it could take a few months to make. Depends if it needs video or bespoke developing or programming. So it really, really does depend on what type of website the project is.
Right.
Whereas print's a lot easier to sort of budget and estimate, because it's you don't have to worry too much about any programming as such. It is what it is. It's flat 2D. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to, well, we think it's going to take a couple of hours or a day to do,
Hmm.
so it's a print from a print point of view and graphic design point of view, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But websites are quite can be very complex to budget for.
Right.
for,
Yeah,
for
that's the thing. It's a bit like I've had some artists on, and trying to sort of recoup your time can be really quite difficult, can't it? And to know how long something's going to take you to do.
Yeah, yeah. Often they take longer.
Yeah,
That's the trouble.
yeah. So Peter, do you want to just give us the name of your company and your website address in case anyone wants to look you up?
Yeah, it's Elixir, and the website is elixir.eu.com.
Okay, Elixir. It's a good name. It gives this sort of idea of alchemy and change, and yeah, that's a good name for a
Well,
company.
it was designed really for bringing something special
Hmm.
to the project. We
Yeah.
can add that little bit extra to the project.
Peter, believe it or not, our time has gone and you haven't had one sneezing fit.
No, I've been lucky. I think I'm obviously allergic to mornings.
Aren't we all? Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.
A pleasure, Bill.
It's been nice people can't see you. I can see you, but they can't see you. It's really nice to see you. And thanks for sharing some of your experiences and knowledge with us. It's been great. Thank you to everyone who's been listening in today. And we will be back next Friday at 1 o'clock. And we're going to go out with something from Harry Nielsen. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.